Welcome everybody. We are filming another episode of The Tortoise and the Hare. I'm the Tortoise and you are the...
I'm the Hare, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, the Hare with no hair.
Yes.
Yes.
Way to throw them off. And you look like a tortoise.
I look like a tortoise. That's why it works. That's why it's interesting.
But today we're talking about with one of our clients. He specifically wants us to build a show for him. That's an episode showcasing what him and his sales team here in San Antonio are doing in the real estate world. So there's a lot of components that go into a show, and we are building out the pre-production, the production, and the post-production, right?
That's it. So stay tuned.
Definitely. This is some good information.
Today we're going to talk about what the pre-production, the production, the post-production process for actually making a video using iPhones, but make it on a professional level. So make it look like it's just like you can't tell that it's actually made on an iPhone. That's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to make one full episode. We'll talk about what that episode is for and his team, and then we're going to make 10 mini videos from that for various function, or six for that one. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and what's the proposal?
I think what we need to do is, well, first off, the proposal is one main episode, long form video showcasing a deal from beginning to end. And the reason we're doing that video is we talked to him, and that's what he specifically wanted to showcase as one of his deals, from the lead generation all the way to contract closing. We also said that we were going to provide 6 additional focus videos, and these are short videos around specific topics, so they may or may not be related to the main episode.
Well, so that's what we need to do in pre-production, because I think, one, it would be very helpful if they were related. I think it's kind of silly if they're not related.
Okay.
So, but some of it's going to depend on the content. So, for instance, if he's talking about, lead generation, it's really easy to talk about how they got all those leads. Is one way, at least for the first episode. Now, down the line, we're going to have to figure out, like, the 6 may or may not make sense or something. Like, I may have to pull it out of it, or I don't know how it's going to look. I'm looking at this as kind of like a pilot, and then we can go from there and show him more and do more episodes like that.
The short videos are promoting the main episode. And then for shooting, we have all shooting and footage will be created by us.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing it with iPhones and the equipment that we have here.
And this will be an opportunity to get a new camera person, like a young kid.
Yep.
So get a camera person.
Yeah, that'll be one of the needs that we have.
Yeah. I wrote buy a camera person. That's how commoditized they are. I'm just going to go to Best Buy and buy a cameraman.
That's hilarious. All right, so one videographer. Editing, all the editing will be done by us. And then we are going to provide the content and they are going to post.
Yeah, so we just have to produce. Which is what we should be doing all the time.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Produce the show, $. So what... So the first thing is to make sure that all parties are on the same page. Mm-hmm. So we need like pre-production meetings to plan out, pick like the leads, who's going to lead the charge for, are we going to do a different person for each section? But because if we're doing one lead, and by lead I mean like a lead they get in for their business, we're going to have to show like 10 or 15 that don't happen for whatever reason, right? Like they get 15 leads, only one works out. And showing that process is kind of what makes the show interesting.
So yeah, we'll have to have.
So I don't know how that would work.
We have to have that. We need to rely on them to kind of direct what they want in that regard, and I think that is important. We can suggest it to them, and I'm sure they'll say yes to that.
The only problem is the logistics of that.
Right. So that's part of why we would need to bring it up.
Yeah.
You know, in the meeting, I think bringing in to hear it so she can understand exactly what's going on is powerful. We need to establish what the topics are going to be for the 6 videos. So we know that ahead of time. We need to know the personnel, the personnel and who's handling what topics. And that's for the 6 videos. Then we also need to build out, and we can do it right now, the structure of the show and what the different components are of the show, and then who's going to be handling which component of the show.
Okay.
So, main show.
In terms of recording.
Yeah, so we can plan. I'm seeing this as probably 2 shooting days. One in the office, which is going to handle the topics of the 6 videos.
Oh, yeah.
And then, probably explanation points for what's going on in the main episode, and then one at the location.
Do you think we should start from a video shooting? We should start with the location, though? So that way we have the material for what we talk about in the office?
That'd probably be good, starting with the location, because then you'll know where the holes are.
Yeah, because it'll be easier, because the office can cover all that. Like, we can shellac over the shit.
Fill the voids. Start.
So first shoot. So part of it is we have to figure out, I need to have a really clear, I need to see the process of going through, or at least they need to walk me through visually the process of how they get their lead. Because if we need to visually represent that or show that, I need to know a little bit about how that's going to look. So how do you just show them on the phone, and that's how you show them getting leads? And so we just get 10 minutes of clips of them on the phone.
So let's start at the beginning, and then we can work towards that. First, let's talk about the structure of a deal. Then let's talk about the structure of the show. And then we can present that to them, and then we can tweak it. So a structure of a deal is lead generation first.
I imagine it's the same as any business.
Sure. We have lead generation, then you have a negotiation, and then in the negotiation...
That's with the home seller.
That's with the home seller. And then in the negotiation phase, we pick the subject property.
You mean just choose the property you're going to buy? Or you're going to wholesale?
The one that's going to be showcased in this show. So they're going to have a bunch of leads, and we can talk about it with them, but they're going to get a bunch of leads. Let's say they're making phone calls. At some point, one of those leads, they're going to determine this is the one we're close to a contract on. So then that's in the negotiation phase, and that's going to be the property that we're showcasing. Because we might start with 15 leads, but in the show, we're only going to follow one.
Yeah. Okay, I understand all that. Okay.
So I think that's a good... As far as structure of the show, I was just thinking we need to have an intro of some sort. Maybe, I don't know how we can do... Would we have a summary at the beginning?
So, of what wholesaling is?
This is going to be following one deal, basically.
Yeah, but you still need to prime the context for the person that's watching. Right? And you need to set up what they're going to get. Basically it's, traditional communication is the core even of media, right? It's tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you told them, right?
What might be the easiest is using a clip in the body as a teaser of a moment. One of the problems.
A clip in the body?
In the body of the video. We're going to be telling the whole story from beginning to end. Maybe there's a section in there where they're encountering a problem, and that could be the intro, the very first thing that they see that hooks them. And then after that would be the intro animation. That would be simplest.
I think with the intro animation, we almost have shots of stuff from the show, some maybe B-roll we get, put it into something, but it's actually not as... Because what's the purpose, what's the end goal of this show? To attract new people into it, right? Into wholesaling for him, essentially. To showcase, but to also attract new acquisition and sales agents, to show them the life, to teach them how to do it. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he sometimes doesn't have want something that specific, but generally that's a good goal to have for it, is to show you how to do the wholesaling. Hopefully you'll do it in a sense. So I think it actually makes sense to do something kind of unique for the intro where there's actually kind of a voiceover instead of like with some music involved. So we do like maybe a 60-second one, and it really quickly recaps what the what wholesaling is and how it's going to look, right? Like what that whole context is, because I think you guys really take for granted how confusing it is. Like I was spending, I don't know, 60 minutes trying to figure out how to explain it to Julian so we can work on a piece of writing for Stop Flipping. It was like,
that might just be you.
No, Julian took forever too. He didn't get it.
Well, if you're the one explaining it. Well, that's fine. We can figure out the animation. I want to figure out the structure of the show.
But I agree with your structure. I'm saying, so you start with a problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that what we want to do for the first thing, which is the introduction, a clip of a problem or something that was in the show?
Yeah.
Okay, and then after that we'll do...
Or just, something that highlights the show. I mean, I think it's hard to plan that one before the show at this point.
No, we don't have to plan it, I'm just saying that...
But I agree, like some kind of problem at the beginning that sets up, like, how are they going to overcome this? Or even, depending on how it works, like a mystery or something, right? Like,
right.
How did they find that, buyer or something like that,
right.
or even a moment like they're negotiating. Does she have to go?
I'm sure she will. My daughter's being murdered right now.
Like for instance, a renegotiation could be a good start. Like, getting or whoever's doing the deal, having them walking into the room or something, and saying, today we have to renegotiate because whatever happened. And we thought we had a deal, but now we don't have a deal. We have to work on that and how to make that work, right? And so and then we start the show that way. And then people are like, well, how? So now they know there's a negotiation. They know there's the house. They know there's all this stuff.
Okay, so we'll have that as the initial thing. The intro animation, which includes B-roll, maybe a voiceover, is just a brief explanation of what wholesaling is. Yeah,
like the show. So if you want to set this up for that was a snazzy, cool thing that promoted him and what he was doing, right? It's like so you didn't really necessarily have to showcase your story yet, right? Although if you look at like some of Gary Vee's stuff, some of the intro does have, speaker, New York Times bestseller, and author. So it does kind of set the context for a new viewer.
Yeah, we're going to need to do that. I think we need to cover two components. We need to briefly mention what wholesaling is. Well, first,
you can use my Costco example.
I don't know what that is. What are you talking about?
Like when I wrote it, you gave me feedback on it. Like the Costco example of like, why do we need wholesalers in the real estate investment world? Because they're like Costco, or it's like Costco. Like basically, you have suppliers, which in a sense is like a food farm or whatever, right? And they're growing food, and then you guys are the ones bringing the food farmer to the purchaser, in this case, the investor.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess it's not just Costco. It could be any, I just use Costco because you guys use the term wholesale. It could be any retail in a sense.
Well, basically, we need to tell who is
Yeah.
and what a wholesale deal looks like, which is what they're
in 30 seconds.
What they're doing. Exactly. Very quick. So then we can go straight into the show, and that goes into this structure. Now we will, when we discuss this with them,
and that's the acquisition sales.
We'll go into acquisition and sales, and those are broken down into their specific components.
So that's what we're going to try to film, but it may not be shown that way. So for instance, we may show a moment when they're making phone calls to sell something, because we have to kind of follow a story arc of some sort.
Sure.
And we don't know what that's going to be until we film, right?
Right.
So what we need to do is like get as many shots. That's why it really helps if they can get shots of them choosing different properties. So because we can't be there for all of that. Now, so the first point is the more we can get of all of that process, the better we can put it into a cool story. From a logistics standpoint on our side, we're going to do the 2 days. One of them, so minimum is, at a minimum, it'll be them going through. So if we miss stuff, they can at least talk about it. Right, at the house. And then when we come back to the office, then they talk about some of the problems they might have had.
Right. Well, we need to establish with them what components of this we're going to incorporate. This is just an example of a structure of what the deal is. How we do the editing components, We'll see when we get there. But we need to identify what we're going to be, what are the topics that are going to be covered in the show. Then after that, we can identify who's talking what, who's going over what component and what location and how it's being shot.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just marking that
a
as
script.
No, not
a shooting script. Like a shooting shot list type thing. Like where are you going to go? I mean, it's not usually shot list you do like
we'll do
during
with
it,
the
but
personnel,
something
location,
like
and all that.
where they're going and where it's going to.
So I'm just going to have the body, which is this, which we will figure out when we talk to them. After the body, which is now they've closed the deal, hurrah, everything's great. How are we finishing? What were you envisioning?
Well, that's a recap with like on the team or something. Or just like an interview. Maybe interviews them on the process, on like what happened or something, and then throws in some tidbit.
Interviewing them? What do you mean?
So talks to about their team and like what they did.
Well, why? If I'm thinking the body is the actual whole video, which is we did an action shot and then there's going to be incorporated video. So it's like closing
comments. Think about like 60 minutes. At the end, they caught the killer.
Right.
And so he recaps, doing bad is a bad thing because you don't want to murder, And so he talks about like the values, the principles, the philosophy, but something that kind of ties a ribbon on it. Like
so learning lessons and stuff.
Yeah, like lessons learned. So it's like he's the leader kind of. I still see him as kind of the host in a way, so maybe he introduces it too. Maybe it's his voiceover, and then we do like a 5 second of and he interviews them, but it's his guys going out there. So maybe we get clips of him talking during the team meeting, which during the team meeting they'll do all the properties that are out there. So we'll record some of that or have them just put up a camera and record it.
Right.
And then we'll take out a little clip of him introducing stuff. Worst come to worst, we stage it, right? Where he just like is up there in front of the whiteboard and he's just, talking about, the property deals that we're going to do in this episode. And it could only be like 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be long.
Okay.
But that way it establishes him. And then, it's like, is this person. So it's like he's the captain. And
I like that. So I'll put like learning lessons, etc. Just a recap. We can talk to him about that. So that'll be interviewing the two people that were the highlighted people, the acquisition guys.
And I see them as probably the main characters, actually.
Right.
Even though he's kind of the host, the story follows them.
I agree.
So they're
until the handoff happens. So we'll follow one person in the beginning, and then.
Well, they're both the main character.
Right, but only going to really be involved in the beginning portion. It's going to be more involved in the later portion. Right.
So there's two characters.
Yes. So then after the interview, then I'm just thinking like an outro animation, just say like where to find out more about the episodes, where to follow them, who is, something like that. Okay. And then that was it.
Yeah.
Close out. All right, cool.
And then we'll just come up with topics, ahead of time. And we'll say for our end, it's going to be, we'll come out 2 separate times to do filming. One at start at the location, start there. The more you guys fill in, the better. So the more, if you get like a little stand and you record some stuff, we could put something together without that, but it's going to look way better if you can get us some cool moving shots, some B-roll. If you can get us photos and videos of other locations that you're doing, right? Like, so if that's good because that could show like the choosing the property section of the process. We could show that and then it fails, right? Like here's 7 properties you looked at, or we could even do like a montage of all these things and put it all together, and then for 5 seconds, and then it's like boom, you only got 1. So anyway, that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as like this is the pilot episode, so once we do one, we can adapt for the next one.
Then we'll really identify structures.
And then we can maybe even
upsell.
Like do some more that make it even nicer.
I like this. I think this is great. This is something to start with. I think that covers the main topics. I think the 6 videos will naturally come out of whatever we start shooting. We can do it when we're there. Yeah. And this is good. I'm happy with this.
So that's it.
There you go.